Hello every folks, and good morning. So you might be saying, what the hell, why is one of these not live? Well, quite frankly, the only reason I'm actually doing one of these right now, because I wasn't actually ready to do the next one quite just yet, is to do a bit of a catch-up episode here, because, well, I was doing these with screenshots, and then so much stuff happened in such a short amount of time that I actually kind of reached the limit of 1,000 screenshots. So let's go ahead and get going through this thing. So first off, Ice Temple happened, kind of as you'd expect it to. Pretty large maps. I have to say this one in particular was pretty fun in terms of kiting everything around, so good times there. Kind of wish there was a way to shut off this little shutter effect, but whatever. So they had a bunch of big moves on there, but generally it was not as difficult as expected. This particular one, thankfully they kept running into traps, so that really did sort out a lot of those issues. Basically, oh, whoops. Held it down a bit too long there, but yeah. Ultimately wasn't too much of a thing. It was just kind of like a slow take a step, drop a trap kind of situation. Kind of counter deal with everything. Using the main gauche for stabs was pretty handy. Oh, by the way, if you ever want to not knock stuff off a cliff, just use the main gauche. I'm fairly certain the thing can't crit, so pretty handy for that. This thing was having a bit of a bad day. Got some more armors off that. Ended up getting the cudgel enchilada at some point. Then we ran into the golden chicken, which, you know, the golden chicken does as the golden chicken does. So basically, just get right into its movement range, put down a trap, let it get in there. Suddenly, all its crap gets really messed up. Then punch it, it dies. Simple enough. Got the spear enchilada again. I didn't realize going in here that it was it was a repeat, my bad. But got Ice Requiem, which we can't even use. Then I was eyeballing the Life Giver, and then like a complete doofus, I ended up not making this thing. It would have been incredibly useful later on. But yeah, I ended up making it about 20 hours past this point or something. Ended up getting the wolf and cat earrings, made those, didn't end up using them very often as of yet. Void Ring will probably be useful for some cheese later. The chokers are pretty sweet. Anyway, at this point, went into Palace of the Dead, kept running into a constant problem of getting charmed by everything, but didn't really have the skill slots to dedicate to kind of deal with that nonsense. It turns out Fell Seal is fantastic against gremlins, so that's always fun. Ended up just going for this kind of shotgun build for a while, so that worked out surprisingly well. Actually had this whole thing where I kept using attunement to go bewitch everybody against each other. It was the only way that this Palace of the Dead entrance was even possible. Must have taken me a couple dozen attempts to actually get to this point, but thankfully it's a guaranteed bewitch, and they don't seem to have a very easy time dealing with it, which then ended up transferring pretty well to the Redlum fight, since Silverado does a ton of extra damage, at which point I died. At which point we were over here. This particular one took absolutely ages because it's a big old room with a crap ton of stuff. Same strategy, just attunement and things like that. Apparently I thought that one particular firestorm looked cool. Just kind of lots of healing and shooting and that kind of business, and turning everybody against each other. Again, we have a lot to get through here, so I know I'm kind of zooming through. Then we get down to floor 4, which, by the way, on that previous map, I think I just ended up flying over to the door to open it up. These smaller maps are absolutely no trouble. You just kind of sit in front of that poison tile. You do this kind of thing, simple enough. Turns out Fell Seal also does not have any check for verticality, so that's pretty handy. Silverado and all the undead stuff. This build worked very well for quite a while, but it started becoming clearer and clearer that it wasn't really going to hold up past the entrance. Because, yeah, as good as this whole attunement thing was, I kept getting completely ground-pounded. Thankfully, got past this map, which, by the way, this map right here, this is the one that I was talking about that you can teleport through the walls. You see the kind of, like, nooks on the top there? At the very least, I know you can get through this one. I'm sure there's other stuff there. And I think it's usually because whenever there's cases that you can actually go through the walls, there's nothing technically stopping you from the walls themselves, because all it checks is this your movement range? Okay, you can get to the other side. In this particular case, the left side, I don't think you can, because there's swamp tiles which reduce your movement, which means that you probably wouldn't have the movement to make it past all that. On the right side, though, that's a different story. Anyway, moving on. I think I ended up taking a picture while I was over there just to prove that point. I might have not. This particular one was a repeated, just repeated death over and over and over. It's kind of kiting around the entire map, trying to figure out how to snipe stuff. Easily one of the hardest fights through this entire thing. Funnily enough, the dragon got himself stuck on the ledge. Then we moved on to one of these verticality maps. I don't think this was where transcription was yet. I might have skipped a few floors, because I figured most of the stuff is fairly boring. But yeah, pretty much similar strategy here. Try to get everybody to poison themselves, try to use attunement to get everybody to fight themselves. Switched back over to fists at this point, and just kind of let the priest get retired because it did not have enough punch to deal with this situation. Its additional damage was only against undead stuff. We thankfully had a better answer for that later, but there we go. It's kind of mending seed spam at this point. Ended up having lots of trouble with Draconics at this point, but the cool thing about having all of these constant exorcisms as an action move was just the fact that we were able to collect way more cards during this whole time. So that was pretty handy. Basically just meant that our stats went up pretty much insanely high. Oh shoot, right, this is when it switched over to the other one. So we'd go way back because for some reason my my Vita glitched out. For about a day, it suddenly thought it was 2022. I have no idea why. Because, yeah, I thought it was just due to it crashing and whatnot, but, I don't know, maybe it just crashed and had the wrong date for a while, but either way, it's all good now. So, let's just go ahead and go way the hell up here. I wasn't kidding, by the way, when I said that it was, literally 1,000. Now, it was somewhere close to the top here. Eventually. This is goofy. Where are we at this point? This map. You know what? Screw it. Close enough. To make a long story short, you know how the Palace of the Dead works? Well, we eventually got to the floor that had transcription. And then at that point we had transcription. I found out that you could get Lord, so dandy. Had a few of these kind of closer quarters maps. These bigger monsters and things was switching over to worm scale set plus... actually, no, I don't think this was one of the worm scale ones. Later on, I ended up switching over to the worm scale set plus White Knight. In this particular case, I think I was doing the Mirror Aspis setup. So yeah, oh right, this was this cool one. So this was a super clutch one where I ended up running into two clerics that kept healing everything we were doing. And so I tried putting on Pain Aura, they just immediately dispelled it. Immediately afterwards, there was just a small opening where the clerics took a misstep, and so I put Pain Aura on him. Just moved it right to the very end here, and I had this moment where there was a Ruination that could do, you know, friggin' 442 here, with a Breach plus Pain Aura. And then it was basically a case where he got a hit off at that point for like 300 something. And if you didn't know, Pain Aura has a thing where it rolls reflect damage of anywhere between 10 to 50%. So if this thing rolled 50%, just dead. So I needed it to roll low, and thankfully it did roll like a 10% or something. But sure enough, just barely survived that whole thing. Got out of there, started doing all them heals again. Very slowly whittled down these guys. Did the same thing with the archer, isolated them, dealt with them, then separated the clerics, got them on poison tiles, kept running around poisoning. This took me probably about 2 hours, give or take. I was at a birthday party at the time, and literally the entire time I was there, I was just doing this fight. There's a reason I'm doing this in screenshots. The Palace of the Dead is frickin' awful. Okay. The funny part is... Oh, and by the way, I was really excited to get Ring of the Dead, and then I was less excited to find out that in One Vision, you can no longer have special units become liches. So that immediately threw my excitement on that one under the bus. Was really excited to survive this one on 1 health. That run still did not end up going well. Ended up going back and pulling this off again. I think by this point I switched over to the axe build, and ended up getting an upgraded hammer. Yeah, it was White Knight with an axe build, which turned out to be very strong. So that was pretty neat there. I kept running into this map with getting cornered by the friggin' dragons. Then ran into the monster map. This one sucked. I think I ended up going around this one, if I recall. Let's see. Actually, no, this was the one that I ended up cheesing with poison, I think. And like to start off with, though, I kept running into just complete issues of getting utterly dominated. Until, yeah, I think I did end up just going around it. So then it was this one. Then I kept having issues with getting completely curb stomped at the bottom, so I went up to the top. Still got overpowered at the top, but then a few tries later, this kind of setup ended up happening, where they all would come at me one at a time. Just a weird quirk of the AI, which was all well and good until it wasn't, because then got hit by a shockwave and then died. So then I tried this way. Which, yeah, by the way, if you didn't know, a shockwave has a chance to knock you unconscious, which, if you're unconscious, you can't exactly evade stuff. Then we had this kind of situation, wherein, let me just open up the window real quick, because in about, like, 20 minutes here, you're going to have to wait for the school bus. So I figured, okay, let's go over to the corner of the map, let's try and block everything over this way. You know, I kept doing the whole fervor and axe thing, kept getting stomped by rocks. So then we tried the upper approach again. And yeah, these suckers keep taking my loot. And then at this point, there was a bit of a break to go test how dominant, or what is it? Not dominant element. What's the other one? Why do I always forget it as soon as I start talking about it? The thing with the element with the power go up. So yeah, I was basically testing if healing and whatever else, and summons also work in one vision, which they do, and then the elements, like the standard elements, still seem to work backwards, but dark and light still seem to work for themselves, which is kind of weird, because then that whole you're reverse to the opposite thing ends up working out shockingly well for one vision, because I'm not even sure if it was a known mechanic for the longest time. At least it was never a considered mechanic, and then sure enough, it just winds up being that it was just perfect the whole time. Anyway, it's a long story on the whole element thing. I'll do a video on that once I actually know for sure what's going on there. Expecting the guide to show up any day now. Alright, so then we did this dragon map, or this monster map a few more times. Just basically hit and run with poison was the way to go. Frighten turned out to be very useful, just because, yeah, you can basically do this really good combo with White Knight using claws. I didn't even realize you could use claws with them for the longest time, but basically Mirror Aspis plus claws, plus, I think by this point I'd gotten the Stinky armor, which is basically your top-end strength-boosting armor, like short of the Ogre suit, so... Yeah, right here. Had just picked up the Legion a few fights ago. I don't know what it is about the Legion armor. Something about the spawns in that fight make it really consistent. I constantly end up getting this stuff. Which, by the way, I was mentioning earlier that I was testing a sort of soft Iron Man mode to see whether or not that whole mechanic over, like, if you don't use Chariot or you don't use Retreat or you don't use cards actually works. So in some... Oh, shoot. Hang on. Okay, moving on here. I forget what exactly I was going on about, but anyway, max stats or base stats are looking pretty nice right about now. And yeah, this build ends up working fantastically. The axe build works too in terms of just boosting overall damage, but just getting poison everywhere. Like, I believe this was right after the poison buff, so yeah, since the poison buff happened, this run became so much smoother. Because, yeah, I was trying to get the Envenom claws and everything, and instead I just wound up getting Envenom on everything. It was fantastic. Anyway, so then this fight happened. Kind of does as it does. Thankfully, evasion's so high that most of the Tier 2 dragon moves just tend to miss outright, so that's pretty handy there. Kind of just became this whole matter of spamming heal items until everything eventually died. Now, Beelzebub was a bit of a different story, where she was going and setting up her liches here. Okay. So yeah, she's doing her whole thing here, but yeah, the whole deal with her is she hits like a dang truck, so this poor bastard kept trying to harass me the whole way over there, but he couldn't really lay a scratch. I just got really lucky first time through, but the whole idea was to have both flight and, not really haste, what's it called again? Quicken? Whatever, the thing with the go fast, had that going, just more or less running up and just getting the crap out of her there. Something hilarious about parrying a blow dart with a claw, but anyway, so slap that guy, that is a nice big number. Something about scaling on fist weapons tends to get them going pretty nicely here. But yeah, even Omni Strike wasn't enough to actually take her out, so that guy is trying to save himself from his poisoning there. Ended up getting fairly low, but took her out shortly after. So she was all like, oh man, you fight real good, that's fantastic. Then we had our first instance of the vertical map. Thankfully this one's pretty nice. You don't have to deal without it too much. Nothing too particularly fancy, but kept running into Bewitch, so the priority became to deal with that little flappy bastard. So yeah, that happened. Then I got Bewitched again, because, of course, they just don't die to one hit anymore. Then got a Holy Crown, so that was pretty nice. Got a fancy Water Sword. And alright. Then ended up just sitting on top of this little pillar in the center and just collected items, started slapping stuff, dealing with all of them one by one. The big scary thing was the boogeyman down there. These things became the bane of my existence for a hot minute. And yeah, thankfully he just locked himself down there, so that was pretty good. I got pretty close to getting taken out a few times, but just barely managed to survive it out. Especially considering by this point I was running really, really low on items, and so I was thinking, okay, I'm just gonna let him sit in the poison and die, because I really don't want to approach that, because he, I think one of the times he hit me for like 500 or something. It was kind of insane. Anyway, I actually saw somebody posting in the Discord of seeing their entire party getting hit for 400. Boogeymen are terrifying. But anywho, moving on here. Fairly standard map here. Just fight the dudes one-on-one, do the thing, get the fast. All well and fantastic. Yeah, just a few of them were difficult, a few were not. Got the Katanga, was kind of happy about that, despite completely forgetting the fact that I could just make those. Got a Suzambaki, also nice, well, and fancy, but I mean, I can't even use it for this run, so whatever. It was just fun to add to the collection and sell later. These golems became a problem, not nearly as much as the vanilla solo, thankfully. But it was Shockwave. Shockwave was the big one that ended up becoming an issue, so ended up rerouting and going through this map with the fact that, yeah, Howling Rage seems to scale pretty well against monsters. Then I went back to do this map, because that previous fight went absolutely awful. So yeah, did the old standing in a corner thing. Kept getting hit by Frighten, which ended up combining pretty well with other stuff, ended up dying a bunch. So yeah, anyway, eventually got through it. Yeah, had switched over to Cleric by this point because I ran out of healing items. So it became one of these kind of situations of just sitting in a corner, fighting them one-on-one, trying to pop out whenever there was a chance to get rid of some of their damage dealers. That guy, thankfully, got himself trapped up top, which allowed for something special here. Because, see, I was running hammers by this point. At some point, I'd picked up a Redeemer. I don't know when that happened exactly. But yeah, I was literally just sitting here, slapping a skeleton down over and over and over, getting getting my rank all the way up. So yeah, this is kind of when I started noticing that, oh yeah, they've got Prevailing Fire over here somehow. They just kept casting fire over and over, but yeah, what I was doing is slapping this guy down, then he'd run away, then he'd try to attack again, then slap him down again, until hammers were eventually all the way up to rank 8. Bear in mind, I came into this fight with something like 2, so it took a minute, but yeah, really glad that this guy got himself trapped up there, because that finally allowed for dealing with stuff. But then found out that it's a good thing Dying Sun can hit him, because I had no other options for actually doing damage to this dude. And then he started using HP Infusion, but then it became very clear that we could just out-damage that. And then, yeah, damage got pretty good with hammers, so switched over from claws to hammers, because they had more single-hit damage. This was fairly good at the lower end here, because a bunch of stuff is weak to the Redeemer. It's funny because the Redeemer is, ironically, supposed to be the best weapon for this area, like, in terms of, you know, it does an absolute crap load of damage, it does all this good stuff. Which, by the way, by this point I was temporarily experimenting with doing the old J-nuke, but no real dice there. So then went back to Fist for a while. But yeah, with the Redeemer, I couldn't really figure out why. I thought it had broken, because it started doing really, 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 really low damage, like to the point where I legitimately thought that I didn't have any skill on there, or that I just somehow had gotten perma-frightened or something. So, yeah, had just kind of threw the hammer aside for a little bit because this crap was happening. Again, I thought it was broken. I thought something had broken during the patch. I went and reported it to Rakes, and like, fix your mod, man. This thing does nothing. So, you know, just went on, moved on, switched over to claws for a bit, just kind of dealt with doing no damage to stuff. Just slowly plodding my way through this one. Was not a good time. In some cases, yeah, I was finally doing some okay damage. But okay, and then we get to this kind of situation. This map, yeah, they've got a lot of debuffs. So yeah, had switched over to this kind of hammer monk situation. There's one particular tile that you should never stand on in this fight. So personally, I would recommend standing way close to the door here. This whole J laser thing worked pretty okay. I was just running staffs here for a while. Let me go back real quick. The tile in particular, because apparently I didn't take a screenshot of it. You see on the right side there where it kind of wraps around. Yeah, never step on that. Many of these types of maps actually do give you a wall there, and you can tell whether or not there's a wall from the overhead menu. That, like, you see on the very bottom there, you kind of see the brickwork. Normally that means that there's an actual wall there. In this case, there's not. So, yeah, they will gladly one-shot you. They know how to target you to one-shot you. I love this map in particular. It's a pretty good map. The map did not like me very much this first time through. So got literally fisted by a golem, and so yeah, then went and tried the same thing again. And yeah, just lots of moving around, trapping everybody, dealing with everything one-on-one. Slowly but surely managed to get through it. That's kind of the whole approach with this this J laser setup. Ended up getting a second sword here, which is weird because I thought, one of these must have been a failure then, because I'm fairly certain I only have 2 of them in the file right now. So I either sold one or who knows. Any dang ways, big heals do big heals, so that was pretty dandy. Was trying to do a whole Mother's Blessing type of deal at this point because we started running into more living stuff. I couldn't. There's kind of a cheesy thing that you can do where you do all heal with a bunch of zombies around, and yeah, that tends to work pretty well in most cases. And then I was kind of screwing around with some other stuff, and I think I was trying to get some screenshots for this particular death scene or whatever else, but whatever. And then I was starting for some other run. Oh yeah, I think I was doing. Yeah, this was the, I was trying to do a pacifist run of the vanilla game and just started messing around with that whole thing. Then I found out some more strategies that might potentially help more there, so yeah, it was the Order of Customer Satisfaction, which, funnily enough, yeah, best case scenario, you can wind up getting out of that whole situation with 4 casualties, even if you never actually kill anything, because it turns out guest kills as well as guest losses both count towards your kill count, so that's always fun. I went back and tried testing in a few other ways just to see what would end up happening, and at any rate, yeah, you can make some pretty weird stuff happen. You can't get rid of his magic-y stuff, so you can't prevent him from killing everything. So yeah, one way or another, you're dealing with some of that stuff, but yeah, best case scenario is going to be just a few of them. You can get Charm right off the bat, and yeah, you can get it down to 3, but I couldn't find any way to get it lower than that. And then this is where the proper testing was going on for Prevailing Element, which literally just consisted of casting the same thing over and over for like an hour. Here, we can just go ahead and skip past this. Yes, all this stuff happened. Fantastic. Why did I take so many screenshots of all this? Oh yeah, then I went back to to go mess around with an older save file. Oh yeah, and then finally we get back to the run. So, I got stabbed by a dude, then nuked some lady, did some of this type stuff. Fantastic. Ended up running into more problems with Draconics because I can't avoid that crap. And this was before I ended up getting a whole bunch of Vitality cards in a relatively short amount of time. So, you know, you do as you do. Eventually, I mean, it literally was just putting on claws and just slowly whittling my way through it. Resolve wound up being really useful at this point. Found a guy running a one-handed crossbow. That was pretty fun. This lady legitimately thought she had a chance. She's like poisoned and critical health, and she's like, nope, I'm gonna go take this guy out with a knife. Oh, right, this is the one with a cool-looking Lich. So I thought, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to go shield bash this Lich off, and yeah, no, that doesn't work. So yeah, ended up just resetting the turn there because I totally forgot that's how that works. Or actually, no, that might have been a few turns later. I don't remember. God, it's been a minute on all of these. And so yeah, then we're still doing the cleric thing. We're still doing the redeemer thing. We're still doing the whole you can shield bash a bunch of stuff off the ledges here thing. Then tried to go shield bash ghosts. Of course it doesn't work. Why do I keep thinking that's going to work? Well, it works in vanilla, that's why. I think that might be why they allowed it to work in vanilla, or why they don't have teleport anymore in vanilla, because they just really love bashing stuff off cliffs, because these maps are really designed for it. Anywho, this particular effort ended up getting curb stomped by a lucky Tyrant Fist, and then proceeded to get properly ruined, and this is when the agony started. So it turns out pretty much every ghost, every lich, every wraith is running frickin' agony, and the thing is, most of them are not killable in one attack, meaning that even if you crit, you're still getting hit for a guaranteed 100-something damage. If you end up just hitting them without a crit, they're coming in with their guaranteed 100 pluses. I've literally seen a case where a wraith was repeatedly spamming agony for 180 damage every single round, and then would end up double rounding, and then it's just like just pure suffering at that point. So that was a colossal pain in the neck. So I just kind of figured the whole White Knight approach was completely out of the window at this point. I mean, I didn't have access to it anymore because I used my one and only White Knight mark at the very start. And this was heartbreaking. I got through this whole thing. There was this whole huge fight. Just one turn away from being able to turn this whole situation around, and then sure enough, a guy comes in for that last one damage with his friggin' avalanche over here, or the zombie witch comes in with the avalanche. Just barely survived with 1 health and then got taken out. But yeah, I replaced Mother's Blessing with Consecrated Dead at that point. I didn't realize how huge of a range that thing had. And by the way, stuff's definitely staying dead when you knock it off at 0 health, so that was pretty dandy. Still ended up having a few close calls with this one. Oh yeah, died with that one. Then came back doing a lightning hammer thing, then realized the Redeemer was not actually fixed like I thought it was, and it turns out there was something else going on. And can you guess what it is? Well, it's nothing to do with the Froggerok, but it was kind of cool to get that thing. So here's the fun note, and yeah, this one was a whole mess of just zombies everywhere. It was fantastic. But yeah, as you can see in the top right, the problem the whole time was the fact the prevailing element was going so low that it was actually throwing the weapon's damage into the negative. It scales off of Holy, so suddenly I believe it gets to a point where if it passes some certain threshold, your own bonuses don't even apply anymore, that it just completely, just like how the weapons work, like how you end up, if you have a certain rank of a certain weapon and whatever else, it's not so much that it overwrites some other thing, but it just negates the same rank of an opposite type. So like if somebody else has bows and you have bows, you are automatically negating at least one rank of their bows. It's not taking away their finishers or anything, it's just for the purposes of damage calculation, it takes away one of their ranks. So I think that's how this one ends up working too, except I'm not sure how it scales, because it goes up to 40 times instead of the usual 8 thing. At any rate, and at some point, it just kind of ticked over to the point that the thing literally took it was from 284 to 30, so 234 damage that it was wait, right? 254 damage that it was removing from the attack. So no clue how that all works, because it kind of flies in the face of what I thought I knew about it. It's a crazy mechanic, but it just does mean that using a Morning Star is actually more effective than using the Redeemer. Its overall damage is lower, or potential is lower, but it doesn't get scaled down to oblivion, so that's nice. This dragon map showed up as if it was going to be a challenge. That's adorable. I really love this particular shot because I never realized it had that cool arc across the screen there. I just like it. And then this similar map showed up. It was similarly no real issue. Just because bigger stuff like this, ironically, tends to be a bit easier in this case, except for cases like this. Yeah, that was a rough turn. This was occurring pretty much every round by this point in Palace of the Dead, So Tabula Rasa was more or less obligatory, because you had gremlins, you had boogeymen, you had fairies, you had all these crazy casters and terror knights, and is suffering incarnate. And this is when people tell me that there's no counters to certain classes. Like, dude, there's so many debuffs. Like, yeah, there's totally counters to everything. But anyway, so, sorry, my visual failed there. This, though, I don't know exactly if this is going to make a difference. I think it's a unique. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's not a yellow background, so I'm sure you can get more of them. But I've never actually gotten this one in a normal run. But that sucker does some pretty amazing damage, so potentially a game changer over there. The Megiddo actually comes with a health stealing move, that's why I mentioned that. So potentially Terror Knight with Megiddo might be really, really good, but I don't know as of yet. I haven't, like, I tried using it on the White Knight, but it wasn't super amazing here. So this is probably not the situation for it. And yeah, that was the lowest damage I've seen so far. 26 damage on a guy that has more than double base stats, as well as full augments and like any optimizations you might want for this thing. Just having the strengthen buff upped its damage by like 2, I think. Like 2 to 4 or something. Anyway, yeah, this particular Lich can just suck it, I guess. So yeah, Vampiric Kiss on Megiddo. Excited to try that one out, plus it comes with Charm Ward, which is amazing. It's like perfectly designed for what I was looking for. At this point, I was legitimately considering just bailing on Palace of the Dead entirely, because I was only doing it for the Dragon Slayer, and only doing that to have it as a trophy. So, I mean, at this point, I'm on floor 70. I might as well just finish it, but yeah, then got into this map. This one's never too much of an issue, as long as you kind of deal with them early on. So there was nothing to repeatedly scale down my hammer, so it was absolutely dominating the dragons on this one. Absolutely crushing these guys. It got to the point where, I mean, I ended up fighting the thing without even needing much healing. This map was pretty cool, though. So the entire thing ended up turning into this whole back and forth on this one particular staircase. With yeah, just a bunch of weird attacks going all over the dang place. Ended up collecting a bunch of cards, as you do, because at this point I could just slowly approach every situation here. Resolve was particularly handy for part of it, though apparently I was running around not healing for a large chunk of it. But yeah, Resolve has absolutely been the MVP so far. When I was I was excited to get a Rude Bow, but whatever. When I was talking about getting the like the fire boots or fire ring at some point, it absolutely would have been justified. But anyway, so I think we're like in mid-50s at this point. Just slapping away a bunch of monster units. Any monster maps are not really much of a challenge. Most of the rest of them end up devolving into this kind of showdown at a staircase somewhere, especially if there's poison tiles. That's particularly handy. I don't think there was anything terribly special that happened elsewise here. Yeah, another case where the Redeemer got scaled down, then was slapping some ghosts around. That still didn't work. I don't know why I keep trying it, but oh well. Anyway, kept getting absolutely pounded by Agony. Yeah, there were so many of these that it was just like, please. Oh yeah, shield does 137, the hammer does 20-something. But then was really, really happy to finally get to a store, because I could finally buy some healing items, I could finally craft some stuff. Could finally get all my new transcription stuff put together. Still stayed as the cleric for a bit, but unlocked Ranger, unlocked Buccaneer, unlocked Lord. So yeah, there's options. I actually didn't know he could become a Ranger. I completely forgot about that. So definitely a lot of options. We might actually be getting, through all those extra fights and things like that, I might actually be getting up to max level at some point with this whole thing. And then, yeah, I was trying out the Megiddo. The health steal at its base thing does about this much. And is it time for me to go? No, that is not a school bus. Looked like a school bus. Anyway, so that is a lot of health steal. That is potentially very handy. It does not scale off of health, so fantastic. Also, the damage on this thing is nutso. So this isn't even like fully optimized or anything, but yeah, that's pretty solid for a Grand Cross. Got a Nimbus Bow. Still can't use it. Just kind of a trophy. More Howling Rage shenanigans. This guy, hilariously, got himself killed without me ever having to touch him. So I was using flight, and then I ran out one tile before I could actually get there, and by that point I had no other movement options left, and thankfully he just ran back and forth on the poison until he died, so ha. Got a Matsukaze, that was pretty neat for KOL references, then was having another fight on another staircase, as you do, keeping people on poison tiles, throwing out more poison from claws, finishing everybody off with a Howling Rage. It's a very solid thing, especially switching back to White Knight at this point. This guy got several parries in a row, that was kind of annoying, but it was kind of hilarious because we had this whole, like, parry showdown. Like, he parries mine, I parry his, it was pretty cool. So yeah, lots of that going on. Took out all the frontliners, slapped around some casters, then they started putting out all kinds of crazy damage, and that's kind of where we are at this point. So yeah, at this point, it's at floor 70. Hopefully next time we can just start off with a quick recap over what happened in Palace of the Dead, maybe just start off with a Nibith fight or something. And then after that, we're honestly just good to go to Hanging Gardens. I'm not even sure if I want to finish off the rest of the Elemental Temples. They've been kind of a curb stop, so I figure, you know, I can just kind of do them off screen there. Who knows? Let me know what you'd prefer, if you'd prefer to watch them, or just, you know, who knows? I mean, before all of the crazy upgrades from Palace of the Dead, we've gotten a ton of potentially what I'm considering best-in-slot type stuff for a bunch of different scenarios. As well as you know, a health stealing weapon, as well as another debuff immunity, which frees up another slot. So I'm thinking with all this stuff combined, I mean, hell, even on top of that, we ended up picking up a bunch of extra classes. And in fact, you know what? I think I will off-screen Nibith. There's nothing terribly special there. I'm probably gonna maybe grind out that fight a little bit to get the Ogre set, if it's possible. I forget if you can get the entire Ogre set there. You're gonna have to look that up. But if you can, gonna pick up the Ogre set and yeah, Secrets of the Master, do the rest of the temples, get the new classes up a little bit, see if any of their skills can be combined into Lord there. Then get that set up, and then next time we do Hanging Gardens, we finish off the game. And then yeah, we're gonna do Coda after that. So Coda's probably going to be its own thing later. I just kind of want to get through Hanging Gardens at this point. This guy, I have to say, so far, this guy is doing way better than the vanilla solo run. I have to say that one was quite a bit more time-consuming. But yeah. Well, it was time-consuming until the Dark Spear happened, because I didn't realize why that thing was doing so good. But at any rate, that's neither here nor there. That's kind of the end of the update for now, so to speak. So, next time, we'll be carrying on here, and I can finally move these literally 1,000 screenshots into some other folder somewhere. Anyway, you guys have a good one. Take care, and I'll see you then.